Hi everyone, this is my final project for ICM 517. For this project, we were tasked to create a companion app for a township website. So for mine, I naturally chose my hometown of Hillsborough, New Jersey. And to start this project off, what we were actually tasked to do was take a look at the information architecture of the website, and then from there, whittle it down to like the most important parts, or a part that we thought would be extra interesting to turn into an app. So for mine, what I really focused on were the community events and residence parts of it, just because I felt like, as a person who has lived in that community for 24 years now, it's really important to the township that all of their communications are broadcasted appropriately. So I thought this app would be a really great way to do that in a contained space. So this is the login screen for the app. As you can see, there is a place for a username slash email password, create an account, or you can sign in with Gmail or Facebook. The social media logins have been really, really popular, and although I don't have that function for this prototype, it's an option that we wanted to have. So when a user came in and they didn't have an account yet, they would click create account, and on this page you can see that there's an area to upload a profile photo, which is super important, to put your credentials in, an email and a password, and then from there you would click this button, and this brings you to the home page. So the home page is basically a main announcement. So at the top right here you have some scrolling featured stories. This H right here is actually the H of Hillsborough, and this acts as your home screen button. We have a settings tab up here, a general announcement area right there, news, community, events, residents, and profile. So I'm going to take you all through these different pages, and you're going to see what exactly lives there and why it's important. So now that we know the home screen, let's take a look at the news tab. So on the news page, you can see that there is a header story, and then they have a couple of stories that are, beneath it. If this were a more put together application, then you would be able to scroll and see everything from like a couple of months ago, or even some diverse features like a news feed or a trending hashtag or something like that. But for this sort of gives you an idea of what the main Hillsborough news page would look like. So when you went to go and click into a story, like the first one here, you would get a broad full bleed photo, a title, your date when it was posted, and then the short little blurb. And then here you have a little website link out so that you can go and see the farm and support them. And these buttons would toggle back and forth between the most recent stories. So in this case, this button would go back to the news page, and this one would scroll back to any stories. In this case, just because it's the first one here, so it would scroll backwards in times, not forward. But since we don't have that function yet, that's exactly what it would do. So let's move on to community. So the community page has a bunch of page tabs. On the Hillsborough website, these were organized in a drop-down menu very similar to this. However, I took the most important ones that people might want to know like on the fly and put them into an app. So we have your community organizations, your community service, library information, park and attractions, public schools, transportation, and sustainable Hillsborough, which is like an initiative that they have with Boy Scouts and other local businesses to make sure that they're acting sustainably. So for this, I wanted to show you one of the functions of this tab. So we would go to library information, and this is the splash page for the Hillsborough Library. So as you can see, it has the nice header which tells you exactly where you are. It gives you an introduction, some contact information, the hours of the library, and then it gives you several accordion lists of tutoring services, research services, and printing and photocopies. So this isn't acting as the main library site. It's just a little drop page where people could come in and be like, oh, I need to book an appointment, or I really need help with this research service or research project. How can I get in touch with a librarian? Or is the library open? I really need to make a photocopy. Do they cost anything? If so, how much? So this is what this page is really for. It's not trying to take the place of the actual Hillsborough library website. So to give you an idea of how this would work, you would click tutoring services if you wanted to book with a tutor, and it opens up and it reveals this page which talks about the tutoring center. So you have your hours, a little bit of a blurb, and then from here you can book an appointment. When you go to book an appointment, you get a form that pops up. You can insert your name, email, date, the subject that your student needs assistance in, so you could put more than one. That's why I didn't want to do a list or anything that was too confining, because I know that different schools call their subjects different things. Like some people call it social studies, other people call it history. Sometimes people would be very specific about what kind of science they're doing, like geology or biology. So just being able to give the user the power to write down exactly what they need. And then I have a notes and requests sections here. When I did user testing, I actually tested with 2 teachers. One of them special education, the other one math. And what they really had feedback on was there wasn't really a place to denote grade level or any specific area that they needed help with, or if the child has special needs. So this notes and requests area would allow the user to put those in and feel comfortable with the fact that they're going to receive the help that they need. So after you fill all these forms out, you would book an appointment, and then it gives you this nice little confirmation message, and it says the name of your child and the date that you have your appointment booked, and it gives you a little nice see you then. So that just makes the transaction a little bit happier, and it also gives the user confirmation that everything did go through. And with this type of function, I would imagine that an email would be sent to the email that they signed up with for this account. So it's that cross-pollination of security, if you will. Now we're going to move on to the events tab. So the events tab is a little bit strange just because on the Hillsborough website they broke down the calendars into 3 different things, by community, by municipal. So that would be anything like court dates or anything like local government, and then they broke it out by a senior events calendar. So I'm not quite sure why the seniors are a separate community than the regular community, but perhaps it was a little bit too difficult or too crowded to organize things all in one calendar and color coded. So for example, if somebody wanted to look at the community events calendar, they would click there, and then this is actually sort of a screenshot / integration of a Google Calendar that the township actually uses. So the user would be able to click into that, and then they would be brought to the actual Google Calendars page so that they could navigate it easily on mobile. Below you have a little bit of a blurb about the June events. So if you don't want to, click outside of the app and figure out what's going on, you have a little blurb here that talks about, this month is going to be focused on health, happiness, and hope. You're going to be offered free screenings for male cancers. There's going to be a blood drive. There's suicide prevention workshops, and also don't forget that the Rotary Club is trying to get proceeds for the Rotary Fair. And if you remember on the first homepage, we talked about the Rotary Fair. So as you can see, it's a very continuous message that the township is putting out through this app. They're making sure that all of the areas are updated in a way that their communications is cohesive, and the user understands what month it is, what the township is doing, and why it's important. So from here you have the option to sync the calendar to your phone or download it. So a lot of people don't really download a calendar onto their phone. They sync it to like an email or another calendar app that they use. So you would click sync to phone, and then you have the option to not sync it, and you can X out there, or you can confirm and it would be automatically done. And that's just a little bit of a preview of how the calendar feature would work. Next, we go to the residence page, and on the residence page, this is really focused for people who just got to the community or people who have been there for a while and just need quick updates. So We have, a friendly, diverse image of, the community having a barbecue up at the top to promote that sense of togetherness, and, that friendly, neighborly attitude. We have a new resident guide, which is really important because it provides new residents with a one-stop shop of everything that they need to know. A function to pay bills online. So, for example, if you get a late fee at the library, right, or if you get a parking bill, or if you have like a metered parking or something like that, you could pay the bills there. Township forms, so anything that you might need to fill out regarding taxes, etc. Trash and recycling, which is like the bane of everyone's existence, especially if you have several different trash providers within the county, like we do. Real estate, healthcare, and childcare. So, with this section, what I really wanted to do was provide community members with an area that they could look at for quick information about like the big things about their community. So, what's for sale? How do I keep myself happy and healthy? And then also, how do I make sure that my child is getting what they need when they're not in school? Hillsborough is definitely a place where a lot of families are. I can definitely say we have, many generations of people who have raised family there. For example, like we have students who have gone to the high school whose parents were actually students of some of the teachers there. So that sort of gives you an idea of, why childcare is important. Just because sometimes after school programs don't have it all, and also during the summer you need to have a place, to put your kid and make sure that they'll be safe. So these sections are really intended for the community to look at local businesses or organizations that are providing these services or their listings, and be able to review them, rate them, and feel more comfortable before actually, reaching out and making a decision. Sometimes just looking at something online can be a little bit scary, and you're like, are these reviews even real? So this gives another layer of protection. So, for example, we're going to take us into healthcare in Hillsborough. So this is a splash page. There are currently only 2 listings that have been added so far. So you have the title of the practice, the contact and address, a little bit of a blurb, the rating that it gets, and then you're able to click through and read reviews. So this is more of the same header that we saw on the last page. You would be able to click down and this would expand so that it gives more information, like the hours and so forth. And then you could see the different reviews here that people have written. So they provide a headline that really draws people in, the star rating, a profile photo, and short blurbs. I would also imagine that people would be able to upload photos with their reviews, very similar to how an Amazon one is written. If you go scroll down and look at a product, that sort of an organization is what I'm envisioning here. So, for example, if you wanted to rate a post, you would click the green plus down at the bottom. You would have the rating stars up at the top, a box for you to a box, a form, whatever you would prefer to call it, to fill out, and you have your keyboard pop up down at the bottom. But because I can't actually type it out for you and or fill it out and make it work like a normal app would, you would click post here and it would fill out the stars. Granted, there isn't any text here. If you felt like you weren't ready to post, you can go back, edit, do your thing, then come back. You would be able to take it one step further, look at it again, then hit the check, and then you would get this pop-up saying that your review of whatever healthcare provider or whatever childcare provider you reviewed has been submitted. So this gives the user an extra confidence that everything has gone through. And if they're not confident enough, you can go back and edit the review immediately, go through the same process. Or if you're really, done with it, but you want to just make sure what you wrote is, okay and how it looks on the page, you can go to view review and then you can see it in the feed. Last but not least, we have our profile page, and this is really sort of modeled after the profile pages we know and love, namely Facebook. I felt like being able to provide users with a profile page where they can post things that could go on the community pages, and photo feeds might be a good idea. So here we have an example of a post. So you have a little caption, the date in which it was posted, and you have a like and comment function. The reason why I didn't put a share function on this was because I feel like with a township app, it's very niche, and most people would want their information to just stay within that circle. So giving the users a little bit of comfort there is helpful. You have your like button there where you can click and interact with it, and then also you have the ability to change your profile picture and your wallpaper. Moving on, the last page that we have going on is the settings, and it pops out like that on every single page, just so that people know exactly where they are. Um, so account settings, you have your username, the email that you signed up with. Sometimes I get really annoyed when apps don't actually show you what email you signed up with, just because like I have several different emails. I have a work email, I have a professional email, I have an email that I use for like my like Adobe's and subscriptions and stuff like that, or my memberships to different stores, and then I have two different educational emails, one undergrad, one graduate. So it gets really really annoying when I don't know which one that I signed up with. um, and you have a slew of settings right here, as well as a log out button. I really wanted to make the log out button prominent just because it's a township app. If you don't want to stay in there longer than you have to, you just want to get out of there. You don't want to fuss around looking for the log out button and making the user get frustrated. So I just made that very prominent. So here you have notifications, privacy, security, account, payment information. So again, if you're going to be paying your bills online, this is where you input that payment information, your cards, your PayPal, your Venmo, your whatever. And then you have a general help page. So that would include your FAQs and things like that. Um, so, for example, if we wanted to take a look at the notifications, you would have the accordion pop up like that. And you could see that we have the push notifications, the sound for the notifications to vibrate, and then pause all notifications until you would like to receive them again. And as you can see here, I tried to make it very simple, just by a simple toggle. Just a very simple toggle. And you could scroll down and you could see all the other things. But overall, that is the entire app. I think that this app does really, really well with making the important points matter. There are a couple of things that I would do differently in the future. For example, I feel like for the home page, I would have liked to have built this out a little bit more so that I could scroll and you could see a little bit more. I would like to have a photo feed on here. I would like to make an integration, with perhaps even Google Maps, like saying where the municipal building is, or the points of interest within Hillsborough, just to make it easier and more accessible. But I feel like I'm pretty happy with how this came out. Feel free to go to my Google Slides presentation where I break out all of the different things that I had to do to get to this point. It involved a lot of prototyping, drafts, explanation, and examination. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.